Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. We will give some people that have not joined us yet a few minutes. So in the meantime, sit straight, maybe get that glass of water that you really wanted to take, but you were maybe a bit too late. And we will start in a few minutes. I can see that there are still some people joining, so let's wait for another 60 seconds and then it's a go. Okay, so thank you very much for your patience for these few minutes. Again, very, very welcome to this webinar about addressing common software integration hurdles with an integration services platform. Welcome to Visma Connect, and I am your moderator, and my name is Hugo Herman de Groot, and I will explain a bit about the Livestorm tool that we use for this webinar. You see the presentation, you see me, you see the speaker, who I'll introduce a bit later. And you also see chat and questions. The chat is public, so whatever you write down in the chat will be seen by all the attendees. And the questions are individual, so you will only see the question that you have raised yourself. We will do the presentation, and then after the presentation, we will take questions. So if you have questions during the presentations, please put them in the questions tab, and I will make sure that I will ask these questions to Kim. So that brings me to introducing Kim Anderson, our tribe lead, tribe director, excuse me, Kim, who is responsible for many of our solutions. And today he will talk about integration services. He will start with the agenda, then do a little talk about Visma Connect, and then he will start his presentation about these integration services platform. So I give it to you, Kim.
Thank you very much, Hugo. And thank you very much for taking time to sit and listen into what we want to tell you about software integration hurdles and how they can be addressed using an integration services platform. Integration services platforms they're not new, but they are not probably in use by all companies today, and it is a good way of solving your software integration hurdles. A little bit about Visma Connect. I'll move into that and why we think we matter in this space. A bit about integrations and the different main areas that you have around integrations, and a little bit about the platform at the end, how it solves some of the problems that we commonly see. Visma Connect is a 12-year-old company, been very, very active in digitizing the Dutch society. And we do that with something we call taxonomies, XBRL, and reporting. And in that way, we connect lots of governmental institutions and private companies to a common reporting engine for the various needs of the government, and we also steer all messages from the government out to citizens. So integration is our DNA, and we do not have many people who sits and work with user interface, that kind of things. It is very much a question of integration. It's a question of taxonomies and being very precise and monitoring these environments. We have huge data centers doing these things. So we have now decided that it is time for the rest of the world to also experience what we've been doing for many years, and we find that we are very, very capable in this area. And this whole issue of integration is the new way of companies interacting with each other and businesses and governments. So before we had to write applications that could do everything. Now we have accepted, after the introduction of apps on mobile phones, that it's maybe good enough just to do something, and then we integrate to others that do another thing. And that's how this whole issue of integration becomes suddenly a very, very important part. Like you have the app economy, we are now seeing the API economy. So we, like a power company or utility company, provides like a basic infrastructure. We actually think that we'll do something similar, but for the integration of IT systems. We basically see three kinds of integrations. There are many, but there are three main categories, I would say. You have and that's the one we will touch upon a bit more today, is what I, for the lack of a better word, would call back-end integrations. So this is where you have an enterprise application integration platform where you do it yourself or fully managed. And that's where you have enterprise service bus and you have API management around it. And that's very much when things are reasonably well defined or very complex to deal with, or you have to have multiple systems that are, so to say, in sync all the time. And that's where you use these backend integrations. And that is what is usually very technical, but it's usually technical audience, but it's also where the API economy is taking off. And for that, it's really, really important that you manage it, you govern it, you know who's accessing your API, what kind of data, etc., etc. Then you have for the lack of a better word, maybe the front-end integration. And there we also have a big team working on that, doing robotic process automation. I will spend 2 seconds on that, where you may not know the APIs are not well defined. It's not clear from documentation what kind of data is what. But you do know the application is doing exactly as it should, and you may not have the time to sit and generate a large API that you can do the hardcore integration with. So you decide that I only need a few fields from this screen, I need some input from another screen, I need to wait in the process, and then I can continue. That's what robotic process automations are for. And you can use chatbots to help guide people through the process, or the robotic process automation itself will guide people through the process. So you have these two kinds of integrations, the back-end and the front-end integrations, and they're both very dependent of you defining what business processes you want to solve using integrations, and also what kind of workflows is it that needs to be enabled. And that is where we have spent many hours and many years to do that for the Dutch government and for the private companies integrating to the Dutch government over the last many years. So you can have workflows that works across multiple business processes, across multiple companies, also in the government, and you need to get them to work together, and you choose whatever you want, it makes most sense for you, depending on the urgency. Then you may have to do something quickly with robotic process automation, or whether you know this is going to be self-sustained for quite a while. You may have an ESB and it needs just to run, or you need to now expose your systems in a way you haven't used before, and that's why you now open up for APIs so that you don't have to do all the work, but everyone can just link in and you have a standard way of integrating with your company. So those are the three kinds of integrations that we typically have to address, and it all depends on, also for your situation, where do you start? What is the problem? What is it people want to solve? But you usually have to take these three things into consideration whenever you have an integration issue that you want to solve. I know I've simplified it a lot. The other part that, of course, in order to make all of this work, you can go ahead and you can use and do hardcore coding between systems, or you can use an integration platform. And that is what we now have in place and has used for quite many clients. And it's a decentralized and company-specific, when decentralized and company-specific applications must be able to share this information securely. We have provide an integration platform that makes this possible. And we do that in two forms, either as a full service. We host the platform, we build and maintain all the integrations. You call us and we deliver everything you need, including taxonomies if you want, where we help you define your data taxonomy, because that is what we also do a lot for the Dutch government. And we host the platform if you want to do it a lot of your own, so you don't have to go out and install and do all kinds of things and upgrade and maintain and choose. And then you can manage all these integrations by drag and drop them onto the platform and let people use them. So we have these two, a full service or self-service. And it varies a lot. If there's a large amount of integrations to be done and people have a lot of experience in it, then they often choose the self-service. If they want a full service, there can also be a large amount of migrations of old integrations that needs to happen, and then we help in a full managed scenario. And on top of that, we actually often see that many companies, and this is often forgotten a little bit, is that the connectivity itself is what we have a full team that does connectivity as a service, you can say, where it's the actual physical connection, you can say, the VPNs, the certificates and all these kind of things. And we have a full team that does nothing else but these things for many organizations. And that is often where things go wrong and you need to call the IT guy and say, it's not working. You find out that he had not upgraded the certificate, etc. So all of these things we check for and we have as services. The platform itself, what does it do? Well, it handles, as I said in the beginning, two kinds of integrations. It's the enterprise service bus. So that's the enterprise integration module. And for that, you use to validate, enrich, transform, and route data. Traditional, been around for many years, these things, but still very important if you have high volume traffic, high amount of integration that must hang together. Often used inside the company only, but you can, of course, use it across to other organizations as well. And just to give a little example is that in that we have 65 different enterprise application integration patterns that you can use out of the box that we have defined, 65 different. And so it is always a dialogue, always an analysis of which one is it that suits you and which one you should choose. So it's not that in itself is a multi-hour discussion. So that we have and we can help you with. The other one is the API manager, and that is the one that supports the API economy, which is all about publishing and governing APIs. It's about routing and throttling API traffic, about governing the complete life cycle of APIs. It's about usage and performance monitoring statistics so that you know that if this needs to scale up and there's suddenly 1,000 more users or 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, you don't need to worry about it because we put everything in the cloud and we scale automatically in and out in this. And it's very easily deployable through the API store and the developer portal. So that's the platform in itself that we offer and that we have quite many clients now using and that we're pretty proud of. And we would very much like to talk to you later. So three kinds of integrations: the back end, front end, and the business processes which works across and workflows, and then the actual technical platform for the backend part, which you see here. Now, here comes maybe one of the more important slides. What kind of pain points and problems do we typically see? And I guess you will see as well. You see data silos from disparate systems, multiple systems, internal, external. It gets really complex in large organizations, and acquisitions of companies and divestment of companies, etc., different technology stacks, legacy systems that you may want to integrate an RPA system, robotic process automation, with some other ESB and then some API. You may need it all for fixing your problems. And of course, data inconsistencies. How do you deal with that? Do you have the same taxonomy? Is an account number and account number and account number in the different systems? Probably not. So you also need to deal with that. Do you have many repetitive data and tasks? processes itself, are they clearly defined, workflow and business process, and all of that. There is the design of you can sit and design and build out, and then you have through a dialogue and through design and through of course user testing, etc., implementation, you actually find out that, okay, this is the optimal way and this is how it should be. And not to forget, an always ever-present issue is data security in itself and the integrity of the data. And do you have the right to make use of these APIs, and who can use it? And is it always available? Data security in itself is a very large topic to discuss in this space. And I would strongly recommend that you take a dialogue with our engineers on this one, because that is very crucial to get right from the beginning. It's always issue when GDPR has raised the need to know more about your APIs and your integrations than you're used to, because you're now maybe exchanging data that you should not maybe be exchanging, or you should anonymize, etc., etc. And then there's another one, which we of course meet very often, and that is that, and I'm also a techie. We like to do product selections. We like to do we like to sign up for licenses. We like to do this. We like to manage these things. But what we actually see is that businesses need to move faster and faster, and the integrations often becomes a hurdle, because there's not enough resources to do it. There's not enough competence often. It's not enough manpower. And we find that that's when people usually come to us, is that they don't want to deal with all of this. They just want to buy it as you go service, and don't have to worry about maintenance, support, upgrading of various APIs to the next version, etc., etc. They want us to take care of a lot of that. So that the knowledge availability, as I mentioned, is becoming a bigger and bigger problem, because in the past people did more simple one-to-one integrations, unless they were large companies and had ESBs and a big enterprise architect team, etc., etc. So I'm not saying that large companies haven't dealt with this before, but we just see that mid-sized companies are really struggling in this area as well. And then, of course, managing an infrastructure. And that's what you get out of the box from us, that we have all of that in place, and it scales out, it scales in, you pay according to what you use. So these are some of the key areas of hurdles that we see people have. And then, are there enough people available to do this? And are there enough people who have tried enough different things, enough different kinds of integrations out there? So in that sense, we are pretty happy that we actually have this in place now, and we can take just about most discussions that comes up. And of course, there are integrations, so fixing all those software integration hurdles. There are some platform benefits here, and like very versatile, because there's a huge array of protocol standards and databases that are supported out of the box that you don't have to sit and invent. It comes to just drag and drop, and it's already implemented. It's easy to implement it's cloud-based. It's even container native microservices today, or you can do the ESB style, which is more traditional. So you have actually moved yourself from an architectural point of view to the latest and greatest that you would like to have for your environment. And it also enables you to scale up in a very cost-efficient way when you use microservices. Then there is a whole developer framework around it, and a workbench, and it is very much a drag and drop integration designer. I'm not saying that you don't have to do any development at all. Of course you do, but it's an easy to use platform, and it also helps. Let's call them people with not deep knowledge, but you can actually move forward and get something done. And you can define your workflows, etc., etc. It's robust, fast, proven, reliable. The platform is in use by many hundreds of thousands of developers around the world, and has a big community in this open source platform that we have tailored and modified for your usage. So the routing, the mapping, the transformation, the workflows, is out of the box. You can start using it, and then you can tie your various APIs and maybe to an ESB together. And you need to be in control. So there's a very comprehensive monitoring and steering mechanism for you to go in and see who's doing what, where, now. So that is your space on the server, and you are in control. And I think that's what I wanted to kind of touch. I've done it within the minutes I was allocated, because I also really wanted to leave time for some questions. I know I have not gone dug deep into details here, but if there are some questions, I hope to be able to answer them. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kim. In the chat, everybody can read Volkert's contribution, but also in the questions, I have one question for you, Kim, which is,
okay.
Can you give some examples of your 65 integrations patterns? Because these are, this is also what you mentioned in your presentation.
Yeah. There are so many of them are technical. So some could be old style SOA services patterns. Some could be some of them are technical. A large part of them are technical patterns that you may have as your way of operating.
Okay. I'm sure that if this person would like to know more, then we will get another question, which also happened when you were giving this answer. The next question is, in your full service integration platform, how do you know about upgrades of systems on both sides of the integration, which have impact on the interaction? Only when the integration stops working, or do you know it beforehand? So that basically is the question.
Okay, so how do I know if integrations are needs an upgrade or not? Is that what it is?
Yeah, on both sides. So you always have both sides, two sides to an integration. And how do you know about upgrades of systems that have impact on the interaction?
Okay, it's a very, very good question. Of course, there has to be some knowledge of this, but you can also go in and inform the system and say, we are now. Oops, I need to.
That's your timer.
It's my timer. Yeah. So of course, some people need to be a little bit in control of this. Yeah, it's not that the system have an AI engine that automatically detects that everything is now about to happen. But there is a version control, and that version control is checking constantly, is this the right version of the API that is being used? And if that changes, then of course an alert comes out and you now need to act upon that. And you can also auto-configure it to say, at this point, we need to swap over, and the system takes care of that swap over to the next version. But it's not that everything just happens automatically without you having any knowledge or any control over anything. You still need to be in control, but you can make the system go, so to say, forward in a way where you don't have to bring systems down for a long period of time. Or there could be some systems that won't respond for a little while because you bring it up like in a RESTful service, but that's what RESTful service is all about. It could also be that they just need to throttle a bit and wait, and then the message queuing brings it up when the next version is up and running. Yeah. So it queues basically.
Okay, and that's clear even to me, so that's a good thing. I also hope that the person that has raised the question thinks this is a good answer. If not, then there's always an opportunity to reach out to us and to speak to us, and we can maybe elaborate on it and go a bit more deep. I don't see any new questions. It's 14:54, so we're a bit ahead of time. I will allow a minute for people that would like to maybe ask a question in the question box. I see that in the chat there is it is a question. It sounds like the perfect solution, but why could be an argument for companies to keep hard coding these integration services themselves rather than use your platform? And is this a valid argument?
I think someone has listened well and even understood what I tried to explain better than I merely explained. That is exactly the thing. We see a lot of companies that are struggling because they've done hard-coded integrations. And now when the economy is moving to this API economy and you decided not to develop an all-encompassing application that can do everything yourself, then these integrations that was done in the past becomes a limiting factor, or it becomes a hurdle to actually continue and move forward. And that's when we often get called in and say, can you please unbundle our old integrations, create decent APIs of it, or make some ESB? Can we please use your platform so we don't have to manage and maintain these things in the future? Because it just turned out quite often that exactly the upgrade path that someone was mentioning as a question becomes an issue, and it's not alerted, it's not managed, and suddenly it breaks down, and then you have poor developers that have to sit in overnight in order to bring this thing up again. And it is this management of the whole integration that's where this platform comes into play.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Kim. In the meantime, we have not received new questions, so I think that it's now time to say goodbye. I would like to thank everybody who was attending as an attendee in this webinar. Really, really appreciate it that you have taken the time to come in and listen to Kim's presentation and also to the answers to your questions. So thank you again, and until we meet again. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening. Thanks. Bye.